Are you tired of being ripped off? Are you tired of not knowing how to get things done? Are you ready to do more? Be more? Then get ready to reclaim your independence. Reclaim the knowledge that is typically passed down by your father and grandfathers, as it's been done for generations in this great country. Get ready to become a reclaimed American. Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Reclaimed American podcast. So today's show, we're going to be covering fire and the different ways that you can start one. In the lead up to this show, I listened to a song by The Prodigy, Firestarter. I love that song. Came out back in '96. Back then I was stationed in Guam. And man, that was just an awesome song for the time. But if you've never heard the song Firestarter by The Prodigy, check it out. Sadly, we lost the musician, I'd say we, the world as a community, lost one of the lead singers, Keith Flint, recently due to suicide. So that was sad thing. And as I was listening to that song this morning, I was going through some of the comments, and it's amazing the thousands of people that love the music this man put out, and yet he still felt lonely enough to do what he did. But anyways, so let's move along from that topic and go back into fire and fire starting. So what are the different ways you can start a fire? Most people, they just break out their Bic lighter and flick a Bic, you know what I mean? But other people will use Zippos. Some people like matches. But then there's also non-conventional ways, like using some kind of a spark generating device, like a Ferro rod or something. But then you also have the good old steel wool. If you've never used a really fine steel wool and either hit it with a flame or took a 9-volt battery and touched it to it real quick and started a fire that way, you've totally got to try it. It's kind of fun, really cool to watch. Burns very hot, so light it and set it down. But anyways, so the issues that I have with lighters is eventually they run out of gas or their fluid fuel. Matches, they can become saturated with moisture, either physically just getting wet, or if you leave them out long enough and you live in a really humid environment, then that humidity will just destroy a match. And then of course you've got, like I said, steel wool. And that's usually a one-shot deal, because once you burn it up, it's gone. But then you also have the ferro rods. They're spark creators. So you can use a ferro rod to generate a spark. Then you catch that spark in a tinder bundle, and then you can start a fire that way. Now, one of the things with that, though, is when you catch that spark, it only lives so long. But one of the ways you can help to extend that life is to catch the spark in a piece of charcloth or even a piece of charcoal. But how do you make charcloth or charcoal? It's actually really simple. All you need is a tin can, either an old tuna can or just a can of corn, but you'll want to remove the lid in a way that you can easily put it back on. So maybe a tuna can wouldn't work out so well, because usually they've got the little pull top on them. But if it's one that you have to use a can opener on, I highly recommend you have a way to just cut the entire top off, like one of those side cut can openers. That way you can take that top piece and put it back on. and it will maintain somewhat of a seal. Well, in order to make the charcloth using a tin can, you also need cloth. So if you've got an old raggedy t-shirt or maybe a hand towel or something that you don't mind sacrificing for the greater good, then go ahead and cut it up into whatever shape and size you want. For me, when I'm doing it inside a can, I like to cut it into a round shape. That way I can stuff a bunch of it down into the can, and it's easy to get back out. So you'll first want to get a nice hot fire going. Once you have your fire going and you've got lots of coals in the bottom and whatnot, then you'll take your tin can, put your cloth inside the can. But on the lid, you'll want to use like a nail or a screw or something. Somehow you have to put a small hole. Because what will happen is that hole will allow flammable gases to escape as that cloth inside heats up, or the little wood chunks or whatever you put in there. As they heat up, they'll release a flammable gas. Off the top of my head, I don't remember what that gas is called, but it is fairly flammable. There's a episode of a show that the Discovery Channel or History Channel did called Hanging with Hackett. Came out 3 years ago. But there was an episode he did where he used, I think he called it wood alcohol, to power a small steam engine or some kind of engine. But essentially what he did is he took a giant barrel, filled it full of wood, heated up the barrel to the point that it started off, that all the wood material inside started off-gassing this flammable gas. And then he burned that inside an engine. And it's kind of cool. If you've never seen that series, it's kind of cool to watch. So go check it out. Hanging with Hackett. Anyways, so when you're creating your charcloth, you've got it inside the tin can, you've got the lid back on with the hole in it. All you do is you set that in the fire. And as it heats up, it'll off-gas. As it off-gasses, the vapors coming out through that little hole that you punched in the top will catch on fire. And then you'll see it start burning, and sometimes it'll actually shoot a flame good couple inches long. Kind of cool to watch. But when that flame coming out of that hole goes out, your cloth is ready. So what you'll do at that point is you just grab the can. It's going to be insanely hot, so be careful. I'm not responsible for your dumbass burning yourself. You have been warned. Anyways, grab the can, use a pair of tongs, a couple sticks, I don't care what, but just grab the can and set it off to the side. Once it cools down, then you can touch it with your hands and open the lid. And what you'll find on the inside is a blackened, shriveled down version of whatever cloth you put in there. And that blackened cloth will catch a spark very, very well. So all you have to do is, if you've got a Bic or a Zippo and they've run out of fuel, but the flint in it is still good, you can flick it, create the spark, catch it on the cloth, and then as that little spark starts glowing on that cloth, you can transfer that over to your fire tinder bundle or whatever means you plan on using to keep that spark going and generate fire. You transfer it over there, start blowing into it, and create your fire. It works really, really well. You can use that in almost any environment. If it's really windy, you're still pretty much going to be screwed. So maybe having a good backup like a lighter wouldn't be so bad. Now, there is another way you can start a fire that I haven't mentioned yet, and that's through compression. There's an interesting tool that you can use, and they're fairly simple to make, and I call it a compression fire starter. And what you do is you put a little bit of wood or cloth or fabric, just something small, dry, and flammable down into this tube. And then you hit it hard with your hand. And when you do that, it creates a lot of pressure down inside the bottom of this tube. Well, that rapid compression generates a lot of heat. And that heat will actually ignite whatever you've got down in the bottom of that. And then you can pull the piston back out real quick, knock out the smoldering ember, and start your fire that way. Now, if you want to learn how to make one of those, I would suggest looking up a guy on YouTube that goes by the name of the King of Random. He has got some awesome videos. Some ranging from how to create a compression fire starter to how to build a mini forge. He's made like little mini arc furnaces, done lots of experiments with dry ice. I think he even has one video on how to create a hydrogen generator for fueling different things. Really, really cool stuff. He does go into a lot of detail on how to do some of the stuff. And very, very informative. Definitely very entertaining. So, King of Random. Check it out. Well, that's pretty much it for today's show. I just wanted to go over some brief ways that you can start a fire. If you've never made charcloth or your own charcoal before, I would totally recommend trying that out. It's a good way to start a fire if you go out camping, especially if you've got nieces or nephews and they've never been part of a fire making experience before. To see you pull this little piece of cloth out, throw a spark into it, and then create fire, it'll just blow their minds. But check it out, try it out, and have fun with it. I don't know, I'm kind of a little fire junkie, so I enjoy those kind of things. But thanks for listening, and don't forget to go to whatever podcast player you're using to listen to this and leave us a rating and review. We're trying to grow our audience, grow our community, and the only way we're going to do that is by having our listeners leave us a rating and review. And that definitely helps us to climb up in the charts and gain more listeners. So don't forget, leave us a rating and review. Join us over there on Facebook and Instagram at Reclaimed American. And also look for us on our Reclaimed American group. You can find that over on Facebook, just facebook.com/groups/Reclaimed American. Over there, I plan on going into further detail on show topics, maybe bounce around a few show ideas to the people in the group. And at some point, we're going to do contests and giveaways. One of the things that I do in addition to the podcast is I make wood products out of mostly reclaimed materials. And some of them are just straight up wood. Some are wood and epoxy. So if you've ever seen those wood creations with the pretty blues and reds or whatever colors swirled into them, I'm building some of that stuff as well. So check it out, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Reclaimed American podcast. If you're ready to do more and be more, start by leaving us a rating and review on iTunes or Google Play. Then join our community on Facebook and Instagram at Reclaimed American, and join us over on our website at reclaimedamerican.us.